Hello, welcome back to another Tabletop Talk. So today I thought I would do kind of an intermediate review of APBA Baseball. A year or so ago, I did a beginner's review of it, and I thought that had some value. And so I'm thinking that now that I've spent some time with it, I probably have played roughly 200 games, and this is going to be of the basic game. I will mention my hybrids that I've done a video on and that most of you are probably familiar with because it'll kind of play into what I'm talking about as far as the APBA basic game. And so, again, I know Dave Gardner did something like this where he kind of did a APBA Revisited a little later video that I enjoyed very much. So I thought I would go ahead and give my 2 cents about the game. As most of you have noticed, I've been playing it quite a bit and enjoying it a lot. And so now that I'm kind of in the middle of it, I think it would be good to maybe share my thoughts on it and get any feedback that you all might have. I apologize for not wearing my uniform today, my normal baseball jersey, but it's a little chilly down here and I needed something with long sleeves, and so I'm going to put function over style. If you missed the shirt, you can go back and watch another video. It is an awesome shirt, I will not deny that, but I needed something a little warmer today, and the older I get, the more important that is. So all right, so as usual, let me preface this with this is my opinion. These are my observations. I know everybody has different opinions, different observations. They are coming from this from a different perspective, a different place in their sports sim journey. And so that doesn't mean that either one of us are necessarily right or wrong. That doesn't mean that you have to have my opinion. And so, but most of us do enjoy hearing other people's thoughts and opinions. It helps fine-tune ours and maybe helps broaden our perspectives a little bit. And again, when you have a hobby that you enjoy, it's just fun listening to other people talk about it. So I know I did a video about APBA with APBA Brian, which I enjoyed very much. So again, most of the things I'm going to talk about here aren't earth-shattering or things that I haven't mentioned in various other spots, but this will be kind of just my thoughts in kind of a one video place where you can check it out and, you know, again, just hear what somebody else is thinking about a particular game. So, so again, no particular order. I have some notes here. So I guess the first thing I'll start with is the quality of the cards. So I've mentioned this video and I recommend it to you again. Tony Porter has a very good video about the mystique of the cards, and so there's some good information there. Some of what I'm going to say here will overlap, not because I'm copying Tony, but because I find it to be true as well. So I will say the card size for me is perfect. I don't know if it's they're close to a baseball card size or if they're close to playing card size, but it just feels to me like they are right. And the size is for me is just great. When you see me playing on the channel, you'll notice that I have the cards in my hand. I don't know that that's necessarily, I mean, you could put them in like baseball card holders and maybe get some benefit from that, but I like the cards in my hands. I like flipping through the cards. I know that probably will make the value of my cards a little less valuable down the road, especially like my 1969 replay. If I play every game, I imagine the cards are going to be a little worse for the wear, but that doesn't matter to me. I'm not a collector. I'm not worried about you know, these being museum pieces. I'm worried about them being played. My favorite set I own is 1983 Stratomatic that I had as a kid, and they look horrible, but they're the most valuable set to me. And so I like the cards in hand. I like flipping through them, and so to me, the size is just perfect. I also like the card stock. They're not as stiff and durable as a playing card would be. Like aces, kings, jacks. Don't know that they need to be. I guess it wouldn't hurt if they were, but you're not shuffling these, hopefully, and so as a result, the quality for me is just about right. They're sometimes cards can get too thick, and so these they're just about right. And so again, they feel great in my hand. I like the fact that there's something on the back, even if it's just the APBA logo. But that's what we're used to, and so I like that. Never look at the back, but it's just nice knowing that they're there. It just gives the card a feel, and I don't know. I've heard this said by other people, and I apologize for rocking. It's a habit. I'm probably making people dizzy, but and again, looking at my mug, probably you could put it on just audio anyway and be just fine. But at any rate, I've heard people talk about the mystique of the APBA cards, and there is something to that, at least in my experience. The biographical information, again, at first I thought that was unnecessary and kind of silly, but I'm finding, and this may be hard to explain, so if you haven't experienced this yourself, you may think I'm being a bit goofy or maybe a little too romantic, and I might be, but this is how I see it. They feel like individual people. Again, I thought that one thing about some of the other baseball sims is like they'll have the teams color coded and like season ticket, and that's wonderful. That really adds a lot to the cards. But for some reason, oddly enough, I'm not missing that with APBA. Because they're all red and white and black. But their height, their weight, their birth date, the towns they were born in, and now their stats for that year, how they bat, how they throw. It just feels like an individual person, and that, for some reason, to me, makes a difference. It gives it a reality to the game that I don't get, especially when I'm playing computer baseball alone, but also even more than some, like some of the other games that just have numbers. And again, I could be completely off the wall, but and I've played a lot now, so I can, well, for whatever reason, that's what I'm experiencing, is that there is a mystique to it. And I don't know if I can, if this again may sound goofy, but like when I'm done with a game and I'm putting the cards back together and putting them in the envelope, it feels like I'm putting individuals. I kind of get the picture of, like on Field of Dreams when, these guys go into the corn at night and they come out when Dan, or I forget what his name is on the show, but Ray. When Ray comes out, then, they come out. It kind of feels like that. Again, I'm sure I'm being too romantic, but I'm going to drink some coffee. I don't have a cat. Sorry. But I do have the coffee. And so it's just really adding to my enjoyment of playing the game. Having the players, again, I like looking to see where they're from, calculating how old they are in whatever season I happen to be. I would like them to have maybe in parentheses the age they were when in that year. That would save me some math. And I'll talk about that a little bit, about why APBA is enjoyable to me because of the lack of math. So, that's what I like about the cards. There's just something about them, and that may be something that you'd have to experience and maybe even be a certain romantic type to even get that, even if you were playing. I've talked about this elsewhere, and I think it's important enough that I will say it again, is that too much of the time the cards aren't cornered properly. They look pretty crappy, and the amount of money that we pay, that I pay, I want them to look rounded properly. To me, that's a big deal, to the point where I'm about ready to try to send them back if I get a set that's not like that. Again, they're supposed to be the Tiffany of the industry, and we're paying quite a bit, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So it's not too much to expect them to be done properly. And when the corners are, they're not rounded, they're like cut and then they go up and then over. It's just, they look like crap. And that's not acceptable. When you pay this kind of money, I don't believe it's unreasonable to expect them to have the corners rounded to where they look professional. I'm aware that some people may not find that an issue, and that's fine. But for me, going forward, that might be a deal breaker, because I'm spending a good amount of money on these cards. I want them to be done properly, and it's not too much to ask that they are. So, do what you want with that, but that's how I feel about it. Hopefully this will get back to John, and he'll be able to do something about it. I'm assuming they're using some kind of automated system to take the corners off of the whole set. Quite often it gets worse as you go further back in the alphabet. So those of you who are familiar with that, but know that when you get the box, the teams are alphabetized. So usually Atlanta, is not too bad, but if you get a set that's not been done right, when you get down to Washington, it's pretty crappy. And again, this goes for the football. I only have football and baseball, so I can't speak to the other sports. But sometimes they're very good. They're very professional, so I know it can be done. So whatever system they're using, there need to be some quality control to make sure that these are being rounded properly. And speaking of quality control, another issue I have found is that quite often there are mistakes. I had one player, or two players next to each other. They had the same stats. Thankfully, the ratings were different, but when I looked, they didn't have the same stats. So, and I see that kind of thing a little too much. Again, if you're going to be the Tiffany of the industry, you need to deliver the goods like Tiffany does. And so, again, I'm okay paying the prices, but I expect it to be, the quality that you're saying you're delivering. So, again, some quality control issues. And I read some other forums where that's kind of an issue, where, especially like in the modern things, that, there's some problems with the cards, and quite often, they're not getting fixed. So that'll go to the next thing, and that's customer service. So, this APBA is kind of you hear both. You've got people who are very happy with APBA customer service. You've got other people who are very unhappy with customer service. I'll say personally, I'm not crazy about the corners, obviously. I have an issue with that, and I'd really like to see that resolved if I'm going to invest more money in the game in the future. Again, to the point where, I might send them back if they're not. Again, I'm really close to that point. Again, I'm paying good money. I want the cards to be done properly, and that's not unreasonable. So I guess the main issue here with customer service, I'll say, is that when let me say something positive first. The first thing I'll say is that John, and again, I don't know him from Adam. I'm just going from, when I say John, it's because I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. Has done some great things for the company. From what I understand, that it was kind of in a bad way when he took it, and has done some wonderful things. And those who love APBA are appreciative of that. I'm thankful, again, because I'm enjoying APBA, and so I'm grateful, and he has done some great things. And he's very accessible, which I think is huge. I know like Tebow had a video where they did a Q&A. He's been on Dave and Ron's and taking questions. So that's huge. We all know that some of the bigger companies will not do that. And that I think that causes a lot of animosity and a lot of distrust and a lot of questioning for those who love these games. And so his willingness to do that, I think, is a wonderful thing. I admire him, and I think he's doing the right thing. You may not like what he has to say, but at least you know where they stand. And so, like for example, they won't answer emails, generally speaking. And I would prefer them answer emails, but he did say that, we will take care of it. And my experience has been that I had an issue where I bought a set. Three cards were bent. I guess whoever closed the box bent them down on the cards. I sent him an email, a picture, and I never received an email back, but I did get the cards in the mail a couple weeks later. So I would have liked a heads up, but again, he has said that he's not probably going to answer them to save time. At least he's letting you know, and so you can have hope that your answers will be, your problem will be resolved. Negatively speaking, what I hear is I'm just a one-man company, or we're a small company. I have a real problem with that excuse, and the reason is that there's other small one-man companies who their customer service is a way above and beyond and excellent. So, to me, if you're charging people money for a product, crappy customer service, I don't care how big or how small you are, is not acceptable. So you do have fanboys, and who will, berate people who aren't happy with the customer service, because to them it's not an issue, and so that's fine. Again, if you're okay with the customer service that you're getting from a particular company, that's fine. But if there's other people who's not, you need to understand that your standards may not be theirs. I also understand is that there are people who like these games who would not be happy with anything, and so I could understand John's not wanting to answer emails, because there's quite a few people who would take advantage of that and who would be needy beyond their ability to meet those needs. So I do understand that you do have people who expect too much and demand too much, unrealistic things. And so, I get that as well, that dynamic. But like most things in life, a balance is a good thing. And so, when you do have a legitimate problem and it's not being addressed, I don't buy that this is a one-man company. This is a small company. They have limited resources, because, again, I could give many examples of companies that do this same thing, that deliver way above and beyond, and everybody would agree. So it can be done. So, if you're not doing it, if you're not delivering the customer service that the people deserve, again, they're spending their hard-earned money. And so, they expect a quality product delivered as advertised. And if that doesn't happen, I have a problem with that. I don't buy, to me, there are no excuses. You need to fix it, and you need to communicate, and let people know what's going on, so that they can, rest assured that they're not being hung out to dry. And so, again, overall, I've had, pretty good, other than the corner things, pretty good. I had another instance where they sent some of the envelopes, they sent the wrong year, I think. And so as a result, I was missing 3 or 4 team envelopes. And again, I let them know, and I got no response, but I got them in the mail a week or two later, a couple of weeks later. Lately, when I order something, I'm getting it very quickly, so I appreciate that. Again, kudos. The last set I bought was 54 baseball, and I ordered it. This was a couple weeks ago. I ordered it, I think on Thursday morning, and it was shipped out that day, and I got it Saturday, I think. And so, I appreciate that. And so that's kind of the thing, I understand that, again, over expecting, if you think that, hey, I'm going to order this and it needs to be here tomorrow, then yeah, there's again, gamers who do that. They're just unreasonable and they're jerks. Unfortunately, the majority of the community is great. Majority of the people in this community, in my experience, are very reasonable. But there's, again, that gets to that threshold where you're not delivering what you promised. And so that's a problem, and it needs to be fixed. Many other companies who are small do it, so I don't buy that as an excuse. But again, I do appreciate his willingness to answer questions, his openness about what the company's doing and what they're not doing. And so this will lead kind of the next thing is one thing that he's done that I think everybody really loves and appreciates is that he's made every season available. So I will say that there's two really big reasons why APBA is so high on my list and why I'm playing it right now. One of them is the availability of every season. Now, every season does not have every player available, and every season does not have the master symbols. Some of them still have, or the dual master symbols. Some of them still have the single, which is deficient in some ways. It's better than nothing, but most of us, we like the new. But they are upgrading these pretty regularly so that they can get every season up to the same code, where you have every player available again, which is huge. That's another, those of us who do as played, that's important to us. I understand that it makes the cost go up. So if you're one of those people who don't want every player, I could see how that would be an issue for you. But for me personally, I want every player. I enjoy these guys who just had a cup of coffee in the majors, and so I want to see their card. Again, I understand that it's going to be a small sample size, and so if I'm playing these guys 162 games when they only played 5, that's not going to work out. But I want a card for them. I like to study about them, to see a little bit about them because that interests me. And so I like having every season. But they are working to get every of those available so that they're all, up to the standard. And so, again, kudos to him. As I was talking to Tebow the other day, he had said that not too long ago that APBA was some other companies where it was hard to get seasons. And, as a result, the secondary market was a bear. And so I've heard, John say somewhere that he was even doing some things to try to counteract the secondary market to where, people wasn't getting abused, and so they were able to get things they wanted without having to pay 3 times what the original cost is. And so every season being available is huge. So again, and the reason that is because I love baseball history, and so when I'm watching somebody else play, I'm watching a YouTube video about a team or a player, if their best season, I get the hankering to play that. Eventually I want to have all that available. Even now in my collection, I've got different games, but I'm trying to cover every season. So I try not to have too many where I have duplicates, where I have Strat and APBA and, replay all in the same year. I try to split it up to where I got, a representative of that year. So I just got 95, as you guys saw. So I don't have that in any other game. So now I have it in APBA. And so, if I continue to play APBA as much as I am, I probably would want to up that collection a little bit more because at least right now that seems to be my go-to game. So I will say, I know some of you might be wondering, I'm obviously a Strat guy, and I did a video coming back home about how after playing some games, how that APBA was still my number one game, or Strat, was still is my number one game. I'm not prepared to say that that's still not the case. I am prepared to say that APBA is a very, very close second, if not getting close to being at least tied. And again, I'll talk about a little bit more about why that is. For me, having those seasons available is a big deal. And so, if the game that you love, the one that you want to go to, if you're constantly having to struggle to get seasons and you're hoping for, something to come available, and like I said, we're all getting older and we don't have unlimited time. And so, for me, having that safety net, knowing that if there's a season I want, it's available and I can get it if I want it. And this is another huge thing, it being available later on down the road, and so I don't have to go buy everything right now. That model is just not working for me any longer. I don't want to, or having to go to the secondary market and paying 3 times what it's worth. So with APBA, I know that if I want 1951, it's there. And it'll be, barring some, catastrophe, it will be there later if I want to pick it up. And so I don't have to strain my budget in order to, to do that. And so, I get that marketing style, but it's a very selfish one in my opinion. It's not endearing you to your customer base. And so, again, so for me, that's making me want to play APBA more, because I know that I can have whatever season available. I don't have to get it right now. I don't have to worry about it going out of stock. I don't have to worry about going to eBay and trying to, again, pay way more than it's worth. So for me, that's huge. So let's talk about, let's see. So probably the next thing would be, let's talk a little bit about the cost. I kind of touched on that a little bit. It is expensive, and I understand for some people it's very cost prohibitive. I'm in a situation, like I've said before, I have absolutely no other hobbies. I don't buy watches. I don't buy cars. I don't buy clothes. Don't golf. Don't go. Matter of fact, I'm very, very boring. It's my family, my church, and my hobby. Work, of course. And so, I don't, I'm in a position where I can pay, a little more if it's something that I'm enjoying. Dave Gardner has said this before, and I've mentioned it. If you look at your return on investment, it's very, very good. I've played, like I said, 200 games of APBA. And so, if you get a season and you, especially like my 69, for example, I'm getting hours and hours. And so, you go to the movies, and you pay, or say a concert, you pay $100 and you get 2 hours of enjoyment, and it's, again, that's great, but that's it. So I spend $200, I get, 2 APBA seasons, and I'm going to get 200 hours of enjoyment. And so that's good investment, good return on your investment. And then also a lot of these things you can sell later, and so you're not losing, you're renting them sometimes, and so again, assuming things stay the same as they are, which, that's, you don't know that with anything. If as I get older and if I decide I don't have enough time, or, it's not interesting me anymore, I can always, get some of my money back. So, for me, I can do that, but I also understand that everybody's not in my position, and that it can be cost prohibitive, and they are not cheap. Matter of fact, probably the most expensive, if not the most expensive in the game. And so again, that's why they need to have the quality. They're, if they're going to charge that much, we need rounded corners that are properly rounded. And we need more quality control where we're not getting as many mistakes. Again, in this, we're a small company. I don't buy that. You're charging money. You need to deliver what you are saying you're delivering, especially when you're charging, higher than your competitors. So again, we're in a great time right now. So if you do, if it is cost prohibitive for you, there are lots of other great options. And so, but I am aware that they're not expensive, or not cheap, I mean. And so another thing is a good thing about the cost is the secondary market, like I said. So because they are making every season available, and you can get them whenever you're ready to get them, you're not getting abused on the secondary market. So that's something to consider, And so if you have to pay a lot of money to get a season because it's not available, that's upping your cost, And so if your game is doing that, that's certainly something to consider. Whereas with APBA, you know that you have available. You don't have to go to the secondary market. Matter of fact, when you do go to the secondary market, it's typically because you're getting a little better price. Somebody has bought it and decided that they didn't need that season any longer or whatever, and so you can pick up some bargains that way. And so again, that I take that into consideration into the cost, and so I think that's important. When you're picking a sim, I think one thing that's important is what you're trying to accomplish. So, or what you're trying to do. So there's always that playability versus detail, that tension. Usually if it's very detailed, you're going to have more rolls, more calculating, generally speaking. And then you also have, are you observing or are you wanting to manage? If do you want a lot of managerial decisions, or do you want more of it to transpire and you're just observing? You're kind of part of it. You do have some decisions, but you're not having to make every decision. And then also for the detail, how much are you having to calculate to get the results? So that whether APBA is for you or not, a big part of it is that. So for me, I'm a replay gamer. I enjoy seasons. I enjoy the grind of the season. I enjoy the stats that accumulate during the season. I enjoy the bad teams of the season. I enjoy the players who had the cup of coffee in the season. I enjoy the players who had career years in that season. I enjoy knowing where these players are at in their career in that season. So for me, a lot of games is part of what I like, again, because I want the stats to accumulate. So something that is very detailed and time consuming, that takes a lot of thought, for what I'm trying to accomplish, it's not going to be conducive to what I'm trying to do. So something that is a little bit more automated, a little bit more where the decisions are less that as a manager, where the calculations are less as a as trying to figure out the results. A game like that with what I'm trying to accomplish is going to be right up my alley, and that's where APBA shines. So we'll talk about the gameplay for starters. So the thing about, and I kind of knew this, but it was worded very well. A comment is how that APBA is great because you basically get one roll and you get the result. So before you have one chart, so there's no other charts. And this is APBA Basic. You got whatever the situation is with the base runners, that's your chart. So if the bases are empty, you got a bases empty chart, and from there, you do one roll and you get the result, and that's huge. I was watching some of my other videos in the past and watching some other guys play in some of these other games. And again, this isn't good, bad, or indifferent. It's just an observation of how the games work. That so it's like you got to do the outfielder's arm. You got how fast do they go? How many outs are there? And so again, you're getting the detail. Because those things, you want those things to matter. You want the outfielder's arm to matter and how fast they are to matter. You don't want a generic game where it doesn't matter who's on base but the calculating, quite often there's, a chart you have to go to and then another chart, and then you have to figure out, okay, if A is A, then you got to go to C. If not, you got to go to D. And when you're trying to get into the season and get, again, I don't like to play fast. I like to take my time and savor the game, each individual game. But I also want to play a few games, and so that for me it bogs it down quite a bit. So with APBA, again, one roll and you get the results. Now, the good thing about that is that the ratings, and we'll talk about this a little bit. The ratings make a difference. So, but they're way more generic than, say inside pitch or strat. So, but it does make a difference. So, if he's a fast runner, he'll take the extra base. If he's a slow runner, he gets thrown out taking the extra base. If he's fast, he'll go to third on the sacrifice, or the ground ball to first. If there's 2 outs, so situations can matter. So if there's 2 outs, the runner on second will score, no matter how fast he is. And and then you've got where the defensive ratings will come in. So again, if he's a highest rating right fielder, he's going to throw the runner out at third. If he's not, then the runner will take the extra base. So the player's abilities are being taken into account, but number one, you don't have to calculate it. You don't have to add any numbers. You don't have to consult any charts. All you have to do is know whether he's fast or not, whether he's slow or not, or whether, where the outfielder range is. Now, this is talking about APBA Basic with the advanced fielding, which I use, so just be aware of that. So the individual players' abilities come in, the team, which is kind of cool. You don't see that in other things where team defense makes a difference. You also, on the advanced, you have infield, and then team overall, and then individual. So again, you're getting some variety. You're getting some detail. So you might have a team with very good infield defense, but their outfield is not great. So that's going to hurt your overall results. But it does come into play. But again, I don't have to calculate it. I don't have to add up numbers. At least at the beginning of the game you do. Obviously, you have to do a total team defense. And so, but once you do that, during the gameplay, you just have to look at your number and see which column you're in, 1 being the best, 2 average, 3 the worst. So let's talk a little bit about the fielding ratings. So, those of you who follow the channel, and I'm sorry if this is going long, but hopefully it's enjoyable enough that you're hanging with me. If not, fair enough. I get it. Ratings are a big deal to me. And the main reason is not because of the results. So sometimes you'll have a game where the ratings are not representative of the player at all, but the results turn out fine. And to me, that's not enough. I want to know, Kurt Berglund has said that the 2 things he gets out is he learning something and is he having fun? And so that learning something aspect, as I've thought about it, that makes a lot of sense to me, is because I want to learn something. So, if v87 was a good fielder, I want to know that. And so it's more than just the results coming out. Even if the fact that he's a good fielder may not affect a lot of plays, I still want to know he's a good fielder. And APBA, 1 is the worst outfield defense, 2's average, 3's the best. So if he's a 3, I want him to be a 3. Even if it don't come into play a lot, it helps me to know, okay, v87 was a good fielder. Now, negatively speaking, on their fielding range ratings, it is generic. There's no doubt about it. So in 1 single rating, you're getting range, you're getting error propensities, you're getting their arm strength, and even something as minute as, their intelligence, whatever. I mean, some of these games really break down the ratings, to where a player, can have 5 different ratings. So, there's no doubt that APBA is more generic. You're not getting the arm strength split up from their range, split up from their, their error propensity. So, the ratings that they give, are going to cover all that in one kit and caboodle. So I get that. So, but it does come into play. It does matter. A team defense is going to make a difference on the outcome when you're doing the advance where you get individuals. Quite often, if the right fielder is, I know Clemente is a 3, at 69, he is, if you get that 1 column, he's going to save some some of the games with that. So, but again, you're not getting the detail, but for me, it's okay. It's enough of a representative of the player. It's affecting play enough. Would I like a little bit more, like you get in Strat or Inside Pitch or Dynasty League? Yes, I would, but not at the expense of having to calculate it, roll, re-roll, check two charts, again, there's enough of it there that it's working for me. The playability is fantastic. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But overall, the ratings have been great. I've been very, very impressed. I don't agree with all of them, but they seem to be well thought out. They seem to really represent the players. They may be a little higher, a little lower, but again, you get the general feel that they, at least the seasons I've played, that they have done their research and that these aren't just willy-nilly things to make the system work. And, again, they're representative of the player and they make a difference in the outcomes. And another thing that's really great about the gameplay, is the diversity of results. So again, I love rare plays, but the fact that I don't have to go to a rare play chart to get one is just super fantastic. Again, I talked about this with Tebow, I think. The fact that sometimes if you got the bases loaded, a ground out to third with two outs, sometimes he's going to go to third. I love that. And so again, and I'm not doing anything extra to get that result. It's still one roll die, take into account, where you're at, for your fielders and, some speed ratings perhaps. And you get results that are so varied and interesting. Things like pop outs, out into shallow right field down the line. The guy on third might try to score, double steals. There's so many really interesting things that make it feel like a real game where you're not just, sometimes cards and dice, if the results aren't varied enough, it will feel like pushing buttons. A lot of us who like the cards and dice complain that computer is like that. You're just pushing buttons and, watching results. We like the tangible of the cards and rolling the dice, getting results. But if the results aren't varied enough, if it's always only going to be a fielder's choice to second or a throw to first, that doesn't, it begins after enough games not to feel like real baseball. And so you need those little odd things now and again in right measure to where that it feels real and interesting. Again, when you sit down and you got your scorecard and you're ready to roll, that anticipation, knowing that something unusual could happen. And again, even if it's something as simple as the third baseman going to third on a force, that's very important to me. It keeps me interested. It keeps me coming back. And again, I don't have to do any extra rolls. I don't have to go to an extra chart. It's all built in and caked in. And so far, again, this is an intermediate review. The results have been varied enough to where it feels real. It doesn't feel like you're getting too much of anything so far. And so as a result, that just makes the game really exciting and fun for me, with enough detail, again, where the players' ratings matter and they're well done. And so that to me is a big, and that's the second reason. The first reason I'm really liking APBA, again, was the available seasons. The second reason is the playability, is that I'm getting a real enjoyable baseball game without having to really think a lot. This is my only hobby. So if I find myself where I'm getting frustrated because I'm having to calculate things and remember too much, it's like, nothing frustrates me more is when I'm trying to play a game and there's like four things to remember and I'm forgetting them because there's just too many, or I'm having to, I'm analytical as the next guy, but if I have to, follow a trail too far, I will forget where the trail started, and that frustrates me, and it just makes the game not enjoyable, and so I'm getting varied results. I'm getting exciting, unusual results. And again, all I'm doing is rolling one die and getting, one chart, and there it is. And so for me, that is really making this a lot of fun. The automated steals and base running. So again, I like that a lot. Sometimes you'll get some odd situations where you're thinking, well, he may not steal, but again, I'm just going with it. Another thing is for me is that when I find myself getting too nitpicky, and I'll do this with the game when I play it too much. Or not too much, when I played it a lot. I'll start getting bored, and then I'll start nitpicking it again with that. But because I'm getting enough rare, unusual plays and things like that, I'm not doing this here. But generally speaking, when I play a game a lot, I start nitpicking it, and then I start wanting to add too much, and then it gets to where it's not fun. It just gets to where, I'm learning that every game is going to have something that's not perfect, and so, for me, letting some things go. For the greater good, if you will, I'm finding that is working out much, much better for me, and it's making my fun a lot more. So again, sometimes they may do a steal where that might not happen, and I just attribute that to baseball. Quite often I've heard people say, and I've said this before, when you're watching a real life baseball game, you'll see things that's like, well, that would never happen in a replay, and that's exactly it. People do dumb things. Managers, especially back before all the analytics, where managers could be managers and they could go on hunches, especially back then. They would do some odd. Players would do boneheaded things. Players will steal when they've got a 10-run lead, and then you remember. I remember this as a kid. It's like, well, they're trying to pile on. But the point is that it happened. And so, again, not getting too caught up and just enjoying the ride is working out for me. So the automated steals is great. That's one less decision I have to make. And again, it's built in, no extra charge. If he's slow, he's not going to go. If he's, sometimes slow, he's going to go. If he's fast, he's going to make, like, sometimes on a hit and run, he misses the pitch. If he's fast, he will steal it. And again, that's taking into the players, and it gives you some variability, but it's all baked into one role. Now, again, not getting hung up on things, caught stealings, wild pitches, balks, those are all based on team or league averages, so that's not going to come out exactly. But again, I saw a really cool thing on Facebook about Don Mattingly, and it had all his years where he had hit grand slams, and I think it was 85 or 6, somewhere in there. He had, I think, 6. Every other single year, he had none, none, and he broke the record with that 6. I think it was 6. And so my point is baseball is like that. So just because in 1969 Jim Palmer had 4 balks, that doesn't mean in 70 that he, again, so I'm not getting hung up on that. And for some people, again, if that's something that matters to you, fine. I'm not saying what you need to do or what you need not to do, but for me, because the game is flowing and I'm not having to do extensive math, I'm not having to remember, every little step of the calculation, I'm willing to concede that to league averages. And so far it seems to be working out pretty good. And again, you'll get some anomalies, you'll get some weird things, but that's okay. Even errors to some degree are based on league averages. Like if you get I think it's an 18 on the bases empty, I don't care who you are at short, it's going to be an error. But, if you think about it analytically, there is a baseline. If you take all the shortstops who played, the majority of the time, there's probably going to be a certain level where everybody had so many errors. And so, and again, because of the individual ratings, you are going to get some variableness there where it's going to be based on the player, but some of it's going to be league averages. And again, I'm okay with that. Again, it feels like a baseball game, and that doesn't mean, again, that, Mark Belanger, if he had 20 errors in 69, that he may not have 35 errors in 70 or 68. Again, you get anomalies. And so because of the play and the fun I'm having, I'm not allowing myself to let that ruin it. Because, again, the more detail you get, the more laborious it can get. And some people enjoy that. I'm finding that I don't. I want it to be detailed as possible without sacrificing the gameplay. Excuse me. All right, I need to look through my notes here. So I did talk about how the fielding ratings are, even though they're a little generic, they are a good representation of the player. You do lose a little bit in detailed for the playability. APBA is very tweakable. Me personally, I don't like tweakables. I'm not one of those guys who like to overanalyze these and break them down. If I look behind the curtain, too much and see the wizard, it ruins the fun for me. So I try to me, ignorance is bliss. And I think I said this with Tebow, I have to remember that this is a fantasy, and so again, if I've got an A, Z pitcher and he's getting bombed and I bring in a D relief pitcher, I mean, if you look at it just in terms of APBA the game, that's stupid. But in real life, obviously, this guy, he doesn't know that this guy's going to have a 4.5 ERA this year. The manager doesn't. And so I have to remember that this is a fantasy. And oddly enough, quite often the A pitcher's getting rocked. I bring in the D pitcher and he gets out of the inning 1, 2, 3. It happens, But again, you have to remember that, this is fantasy and I try to put myself in the game and then let, not look behind it too much. So again, that's me. But APBA is tweakable. I would prefer a game where I don't have to tweak. I want it to follow the rules. And so for me, the one, and I won't go into this because I did a video about it already, so you can check it out if you're interested. The one thing that was really bothering me is the lefty-right split. So based on their master game, I came out with a easy way for me not to have to do any more rolls. And it's very simple to calculate, and it gives me the lefty-righty splits enough, again, kind of like the fielder's range ratings, to where that it's part of the game. It does affect some outcomes, and so that's working for me. And then also with the pitcher home runs, using the G, the L, the M, and the H, to cut down some home runs for guys who didn't give up many. Those two tweaks are the two that I've made that are helping me enjoy the basic. If I hadn't been able to work that out, it probably it was a problem. And so, again, you got to pick your battles. Again, you can nitpick to where nothing's fun, but again, there's just certain things that some of us just can't ignore, and it's got to be in our game. So thankfully, I was able to figure that out, and it's working out great for me. Check out that video if you're interested. But you got lots of options as far as merino boards, and you can go to the master version if you want. But it's tweakable, So again, you can do that if that's something you enjoy. Let's see. Pitching ratings. When I first saw this game played on YouTube, I didn't think I would enjoy it at all, and one of the main reasons is the pitcher's rating. It didn't feel like to me, looking at it from a casual observer, that it was making a big enough difference. It just seems like the pitching was an afterthought, and at the time I wanted my pitchers to be more involved than that. So, but having played it now, again, for 200 games or so, I really enjoy the pitcher's ratings. It makes a difference. When I think about it, that a baseball sim, you want the players to be representative of what they did in real life. And so with the variableness that anything could happen, you want a pitcher, if your star pitcher has a super magnificent game every game, that's just not real. Even the best, even Maddox got bombed every once in a while, even in his heyday. It wasn't often, but you also don't want him to pitch 20 games and have a 4.5 ERA either. That's not going to work. So I will say that the pitchers' ratings are working out very, very well, to the point where I'm even comfortable doing a pitcher replay. I'm working on 1972 Nolan Ryan, and I'm enjoying that very much. I thought because I didn't feel like the pitchers were interacting with the game enough that I would never enjoy something like that with APBA, but I do, and so I just got 95. And Maddox, he's an A and a C with an X with a ZZ. Again, that's Greg Maddox. And so, I'm finding that after experiencing it and playing it, I actually enjoy the pitcher's ratings. They work for me very, very well. And again, I think, one thing about a 50-50 engine is that these really weird anomalies like Maddox only walking 20 guys in 300 innings, it's hard to replicate on a 50-50. I think Season Ticket's done a good job. They've kind of tweaked it a little bit to where it's still kind of 50-50, but it's able to help handle those better. But I think these ratings, especially since they've done the ZZ, is really helping you to get those closer to those anomalies. So, I enjoy the pitcher's ratings now. I think it interacts with the game very well. Another thing is, again, some of you probably think that, this guy's crazy because I'll say some things, and as I'm growing in my experience, I'm finding that some things aren't as important as I thought they were. And one thing I loved about Strat, and still do, is that the variableness, how that you don't get the same result. You can, do a 212, and it could be anything depending on who's there. I never liked like a replay where, you've got 11 is always a hit. It's always in the same spot. But with the 66, it's always going to be a home run. And there's a lot more of that in APBA. A 34, I think it's a 34. A 54 is always usually a fly out to right field. 16 is almost always a ground out to shortstop. And so you get a lot of that. I thought in the past that would really bug me, but it doesn't. So, and the reason is I always felt like that, that's not enough individuality. But what I'm coming to see is that the individuality, not only is it the biographical information and things like that on the card, it's the variances. That's where the individual, so that, you can have, 16 is always a 28 ground ball to short. It kind of gives a familiarity. It helps the game flow. But it also, when somebody doesn't have a 28 on 16, then that's where the variances come in. And so ultimately, I think what matters is do the stats come out right? Are the percentages right? And again, on the 50-50, a lot of people, feel like, well, if I land on the pitcher's card, then my hitter don't matter, but it does, because you got to think of that as a great big card with percentages. Well, APBA's the same way. You've got a card, and even though there's a lot of similarities in where the ball might be hit, and that 66 is probably going to be a home run if you have power, there's a familiarity and an excitement. When you roll a 66, something's good is going to happen. So even though in the past I have said that was a problem for me, I'm finding that it's not. It actually it gives you an element that's kind of fun. And a familiarity, and again, that helps the game flow. That a 54, you look and, oh, yep, 32, it's fly ball to right field. And so I'm finding that that's not an issue like I thought it used to be. And again, as long as the percentages are right and the players are getting the results that you're supposed to get, within reason, that's really good. Let's see. Accuracy. Again, I'm intermediate, so I can't speak to this. If I ever am able to do a experienced APBA gamer, what's the word I'm looking for? Review. I'll be able to speak to this a little bit more, but so far I have been very, very pleased with the accuracy. You've got your anomalies, but everything is working out great. Again, with like my Nolan Ryan replay from 72, the strikeouts are a little bit off, but other than that, I mean, it feels like Nolan Ryan with the ratings they gave him. He has I think a K, which you don't see very often. He has a W, so again, he's an A, so he's not going to give up a ton of hits. So it feels, when I put the game and I'm playing it feels like Nolan Ryan is on the mound, and the results I'm getting feel very Nolan Ryan-esque. And so, it again, with my experience with other sims, as far as how things are looking and how things are progressing, it feels very accurate. And of course, you can read in the community APBA's been around a long time, and the accuracy, most people, there's anomalies, but just about everybody that's had any serious time with it has been very pleased with what the results they've got, and I expect that I will continue to find the same. And and again, in accuracy, just not in the fact of the stats, but of how the rare plays, the odd things happen, and the frequency, those kind of things. Just it's feeling. I'm not, in some sims you start playing, and it's just like it doesn't feel. It feels weird. You're getting too much of certain things. And so far, I can say that I'm enjoying the games. They feel not only accurate in the stats, but also accurate in what's happening during the game. The amount of caught stealings. I will say, so far I've been checking like fielding percentages for teams or for the league, and it's dead on. So again, errors are a little bit of a concern because some of it, is not as detailed as you might like. But overall, that's another thing Kurt Berglund said, is that when he's looking at a sim's accuracy, he's more interested in the league averages, the league batting average, the league on base percentage, the league ERA, the league fielding percentages. And I agree with that, because you're going to have anomalies. You're going to have players who have certain, they're going to perform a little better or a little worse. And again, that is perfect. You want it to do that. And, again, just about every player had a little off year, and so for me, I'm finding the accuracy is working out just great. And again, I have hope, and from reading with other folks, that it will be that way the further I get into it. Let's see. That was a lot. This one's really gone long, hasn't it? I apologize for that. So again, if it's boring you, feel free to check out. Okay. All right, I think that was it. I can't see anything else in my notes. So again, I'm not prepared to say this is my new favorite game. I will say that it is definitely in the top two and is growing all the time, and for the reasons that I've stated. And kind of seeing this in the community, and again, it could be the type of videos that I'm putting out is why I'm getting the people who are starting to get into APBA and really enjoy it. So that could be, if I was feeling different about things, the comments I'm getting could be entirely different. So, in any community, you have different, people in different spots. And so, you're going to gravitate to the people who agree with you. And so, that very well could be what it is. So I guess I can really only speak to myself. And right now, I'm finding that I'm playing more than I ever have since I was a kid, and that's encouraging. I find that I know a good test for me is extra innings. If I find that I get to the extra innings and I'm getting angry and I'm getting mad, I'm not enjoying this as much as I would like to think I am. However, lately with APBA, I'm finding that extra innings don't matter. It's kind of adding to the fun. The thing is that because I'm tackling a full season replay, I'm feeling that pressure to play more games. But as far as the game in itself, I'm enjoying the extra innings, and so I think that says a lot about that maybe this might be a really good sweet spot for me to where I'm enjoying it. I'm getting games completed, and again, the main two reasons, and I'll wrap up with this, is the availability of every season and them constantly working on it, and the playability, that with one roll I don't have to do a lot of calculating. I don't have to go from chart to chart. I don't have to remember step A, B, and C to get the result, and I'm getting enough results that are varied enough and based on the actual player's abilities enough that I'm finding that this is a sweet spot for me. And at this point, I'm enjoying it and having a blast, a lot of fun. I know myself well enough to know that a year from now, who knows, You know, again, when you're on a journey, sometimes the road will go a way that you're not expecting, and so that's kind of where I'm at. Let's see, I bought APBA in January of 2022, so I'm pushing 2 years with it. And obviously, I haven't played it like I am now. You know, I played with it and dabbled with it and had some fun. Kind of went to some other things and tried some things, and so now I'm really settling down into it. But I've had it 2 years, and so I felt like it might be fun to do an intermediate review, and that I have done. So as usual, I appreciate your comments. Good, bad, or indifferent. If you disagree or you have some points, again, I enjoy the comments immensely. They really help flesh out some things that I might have missed, or some things that I haven't really thought of. Again, the fact that that you get one roll in that one chart and you're done. I knew that, but I hadn't really thought about it till the person worded it that way. And that was a huge revelation to me. Is like, yeah, that's right. And so that was very helpful to help me to kind of grasp where I'm at right now and playing APBA. So anyway, I've rambled on enough. That was an hour. I don't know that I've ever done a review that long. But I had a lot to say, and I hope you enjoy that. And again, feel free. Appreciate comments. Getting close to 1,000 subscribers. I think last I looked, like 19 away, or maybe 18. I can't remember exactly, but that's an exciting goal, and I appreciate everybody jumping in and liking the channel enough to subscribe. Never intended to build a channel. I just intended to share, but I won't lie. 1,000 subscribers is exciting. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time.